Round 19 of the AFL season is coming up this weekend. We're going to be previewing all 9 matches coming your way. Let's try and find 9 winners. Sit back, enjoy. This is the All Aussie Rules Footy Podcast. Welcome on into the All Aussie Rules Football Podcast. This is episode number 49 of season 2025. The AFL season is flying through. Round 19 this weekend, we're going to be previewing all 9 matches coming your way this weekend. AFLW's less than a month away, right on a month away basically, so that content's coming up very soon as well. Don't forget to hit up all the socials, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, wherever. All Aussie Rules everywhere. Plenty of content going out every single day, so go check them all out. Without any further ado, we'll basically jump straight into the games. While I do that, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, whether you are on YouTube, on Spotify, or on Apple Podcasts. This podcast goes live twice a week, so make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that noti bell if you're on YouTube. Follow, like, all those things. Don't forget. Let's jump into football because that's what we're here for. 9 games this weekend. Starts on Thursday night. Football at Marvel Stadium. It's Essendon v GWS. This is not the most anticipated Thursday night football fixture of the season. There's no doubt about it. GWS will go into this one heavy favourites, and rightly so. Essendon are the walking wounded right now. They don't have that many healthy players left. They've already had 12 debutants this year, number 13 this weekend. Mass changes again. Nick Martin obviously out for the season with an ACL. It's just been a really rough, full season basically for the Bombers. They've got another 6 weeks to get through. 7 games with that extra one that they still have to catch up for the Gold Coast match at the start of the year. They've just got to get through it as best they can. Giants will be heavy favourites. Head-to-head, 6-4 over the last 10 in favour of the Giants. So overall, slightly ahead for Giants. Bombers did win their only meeting last year, and that was also at Marvel Stadium. That was a Saturday evening game, 4:40 kickoff or 4:10 kickoff, something around there. And the Bombers won it by 20 points after Giants started well in the first quarter, but after that, the Bombers were by far the better team throughout most of that day. But this is a completely different match. Giants are certainly looking better now than they were at that stage of the season last year, and the Bombers are certainly nowhere near in the sort of form that they were 18 months ago. Recent form for both teams. Giants have won their last 4. Geelong, Gold Coast, and Brisbane have all been in that run as well. So 3 top contending teams, like 2nd on the ladder, 4th on the ladder, and Gold Coast must be like 6th on the ladder or some 8th maybe. 3 really competitive teams they've all beaten in the last 4 or 5 weeks. So things are really starting to build for the Giants. They did this at a similar time last year where they just started to play some more consistent, some better football, which led them to getting wins, which then led them into playing, they ended up top 4. They fell in straight sets once we got to finals, but their last 6 or 7 weeks last year were really good. This year, they've really started that well again, so we'll see if that continues. You'd imagine it certainly will in this one. The Bombers, on the other side of the fence, have lost their last 6. Their last win came on May 23rd, and that was against the Tigers, who obviously they then played again on the weekend and went down in a really, really average game of football. It's been a rough 6 weeks for the Bombers. More players keep going down quicker than they coming and getting good, so it's tough for them. There's no doubt about it. You'd imagine both ends of the ground will be dominated by the Giants in this one. Tall forwards, small forwards, both should do pretty well for Giants, I would think. And in the back line, obviously they've got some really good tall forwards, but they also have some really good users of the ball out of their back line as well. So that's going to be a real strength of the Giants. I think if Bombers are to compete in this game, it's going to be in the middle. The Bombers do have some talent in there. Obviously, Zach Merritt is one of the best midfielders in the competition. He's got some good support in there as well, with some players that are playing some handy football. Not outstanding football, but certainly handy. I think that's the area of the ground I can see them being the most competitive in. But outside of that, I just don't see how that's going to gain them much, because their ball use hasn't been spectacular of late. And I just see the Giants' defense and transition game in this one absolutely tearing Essendon to shreds. I don't know if there's too much else to say about this game, in all honesty. We've talked about the Bombers' injuries. That's basically how it is. We will do full tips for all matches at the end of this episode, but I mean, we all know which way I'm going with this one. There's no surprise about that. Aaron Cadman's form, he's been fantastic lately, so a really good opportunity for him to kick another bag here, I reckon. Thursday night lights, Marvel Stadium. I think we'll be looking at a pretty comfortable Giants victory. We'll move on to game number 2 for the weekend. It's Friday night football. It's up in Queensland. For the second week in a row, we've got a Friday night game up in Queensland. Obviously, Gold Coast hosted last week. This week, it is Brisbane hosting the Bulldogs at the Gabba, and this is a massive game for the context of both of these teams' seasons. Brisbane currently second on the ladder, the Bulldogs ninth on the ladder. Brisbane are pretty strong favourites in this for obvious reasons. Their form's pretty good. Bulldogs, they're hit and miss. They obviously coming off a loss last week. Head-to-head, over the last 10, both teams are 5-5, so pretty consistent. Lions have won the last 2 meetings between these two teams. Both of them were in Victoria as well. So Brisbane certainly have the recent form against the Bulldogs, which is huge here. Over the last 5 weeks, Brisbane have won the last 3. The biggest one of that was Geelong, which was about 3 weeks ago when they won by 40-odd points. See, before that, they lost 2 in a row. They were against GWS and Adelaide. So pretty consistent, but at the same time, they have dropped a few games here and there, and also dropped quite a few at the Gabba this year, to a whole range of good teams and bad teams. So it's not the fortress that it once was, but their ability to travel this year has been quite good. So it's put them in the spot where they're currently second on the ladder. They're a game and a half behind Collingwood. A win here keeps that top 2 really alive. Adelaide coming right, breathing down the necks of the Lions at the moment. So they need to keep winning, and they don't have the easiest draw home, the Brisbane Lions. So they would need to win this, I think. If they're going to finish top 2, they will have to win this game. On the other side of the fence, Bulldogs, their recent form, they'd gone pretty well, 4 wins in a row against all bottom 10 teams before they came up against Adelaide in Melbourne last week and lost at Marvel Stadium. It was a close game, pretty competitive, but the issue is the Bulldogs midfielders, which is their strongest part of the ground, arguably, all played really good games of football, and they still couldn't get over the line. Granted, their forwards, I mean, Norton still kicked 5, I think. Sam Darcy was solid without being great. But yeah, it's just concerning, I think, the fact how good, especially Bont was, but even Ed Richards, Libba, was also really good. These players played really well, and it wasn't enough for them to beat Adelaide at Marvel. So that was concerning, because the Bulldogs have lost quite a few games this season against the other competitive teams, the teams in the race for the top 8. So they get another chance this week to try and right that wrong, I guess. And it's, yeah, a massive chance for them. They don't have the toughest run home after this one, so this isn't the be-all and end-all. I know they're sitting 9th on the ladder at the moment, so just outside the 8, and a loss here would put them even further back. But I can really see them getting on a run later in the season, because they do have some easy wins, or as easy as football gets, I guess, these days. Offensively is the Dogs' specialty through their midfield and forward line. When they've got the ball in hand, they are very, very good. Their main issue is stopping the opposition from scoring, and I think that's going to be their biggest issue this week against Brisbane. Last 3 weeks, the Dogs have conceded 96, 85, and 109. So even though they won 2 of those games, that's quite a lot of points to be conceding a match. Certainly, if you want to be playing finals, it's not going to make life easy if you're conceding those sort of scores. And Brisbane are the sort of team that if they are efficient in their forward line, which is always their biggest issue, they can score pretty big as well. They've scored at least 90 in the last 4 weeks. So that sets this up to be a high-scoring game, I think. And the question is, can the Bulldogs stop Brisbane from scoring more than them? That is going to be the main thing. It's going to be efficiency in the forward line for both teams, but especially Brisbane. That's been the big story of their last 2 seasons. They struggled with it early last year. They started getting it going late in the season. Same story this year. They really struggled early. Their last 4 or so weeks, though, have been really, really good in their forward efficiency. Much improved on what they were early on in this season. So if they can continue that in this game, I think they're going to be really hard to beat. And I would suggest that they're going to be the ones that walk away winners here. Dogs will be relying on their strong midfield, but Brisbane also have a strong midfield. So it's just going to come down to an absolute arm wrestle. I can't see it being a blowout either way, but I would imagine Brisbane will probably be slightly too good in the end. Maybe not by much, but just by a little bit, which will be all they need for the 4 points and to really set their back half of the season up quite nicely. Saturday football. There's, 4 games on Saturday. The first one is Saturday afternoon, the early game, just the one early game. It's down in Lonnie at Utah's Stadium. Hawthorn hosting Port Adelaide, 6th on the ladder Hawthorn, fighting for their season. Port Adelaide, their season's pretty much done. They're sitting 11th on the ladder. And quite a few injuries hitting Port Adelaide of recent, so that will be interesting to see how that plays out. Hawthorn, obviously strong favourites. No surprise there. Everyone would expect that they would be favourites. Port Adelaide actually have a pretty good record against Hawthorn. 7-3 across the last 10 in favour of the Power. Their form against Hawthorn's pretty good. They've won the last 4. Obviously, last year there was the real close game in Adelaide. In round 7, 8, 9, 10, somewhere around there. Followed the week after with, not the week after, but followed with the semi-final that they met each other. Port Adelaide just got over the line once again in Adelaide. And then earlier this year they met as well, and Port Adelaide smacked them that day. So they do have a good record against Hawthorn. This is the toughest one, though, because this is down in Tassie where Hawthorn do dominate. They've won their last 9 games at Utah Stadium, have the Hawks going back to their first or second game of 2023 down there when they lost to Adelaide. They beat everyone down there. Last year, they beat St Kilda, they beat GWS, they beat Fremantle. And this year, they've beaten Adelaide and GWS again down there. So they beat good teams down there. So I would imagine that this will be no different. Against Port Adelaide, you'd have to suggest that this should be a very winnable game for the Hawks. Last week, Hawks lost to Fremantle. Obviously, over in the West, it wasn't ever going to be an easy game. They were leading for a big chunk of it and maybe just fell away in that last quarter where Freo took control of the match. But before that, the Hawthorn form was really good where they'd got their season really back on track. They'd won 4 in a row, beating both Adelaide down in Tassie and the Bulldogs in Melbourne. So their form had really, really got going. Last week, it's a complete forgive game. Like, Fremantle should be winning that game. They're a team that's competing for the top 8. It's their home game. I think Hawthorn have copped a little bit too much abuse from media this week about not performing, not being good enough. I genuinely still believe they are a team that could fight for top 4. It's going to be really tight between a lot of teams in that race for top 4, but Hawthorn certainly will be in with a chance. They don't have the easiest run home, but if they get their form going and win against a couple of the top teams that they play against, that will set up their September really well. Port's recent form, they've gone win, loss, win, loss, win over the last 5 weeks. So a little bit inconsistent. They keep showing that they're going to be potentially okay, but then they also play some bad football. Like last week, they beat West Coast, but it wasn't pretty. They never looked that great in it. They certainly let West Coast get away early. They fought their way back, but poor kicking in front of goal and some wasted opportunities and injuries and whatnot ended up making it a lot closer than perhaps it should have been. And based on that, it's very hard to see a world where Port Adelaide genuinely challenge Hawthorn down here. I know it's a big rivalry. I know it's a big game. Ken Hinkley v Hawthorn for the final time. But I just don't see Port Adelaide having played well enough of recent form. However, we kind of thought that earlier this year when they played in Adelaide and then they came out and were 80 points up at halftime or something ridiculous. So we can't fully write them off, but Hawthorn should be too good, you'd think. Most of the key stats in this game suggest Hawthorn will be too good. They're very hard to score against. They're conceding just 63.8 points per game over the last 5 weeks. That's not much scoring against them. So that's going to be Port Adelaide's biggest challenge, I think, in this game. And down in Tassie, there tends to be a lot of low-scoring games. It's either a really open, free-flowing, high-scoring game where Hawthorn dominate, or it's a tight, low-scoring, contested football game that goes right down to the wire. So it's going to be tough. I can't see Port Adelaide being able to kick a winning score, but you never know. Strange things happen in football, and maybe this is going to be one of them. Who knows? We'll find out on Saturday afternoon. Heading into the Saturday evening game, SCG, Sydney hosting North Melbourne. Another one that perhaps won't be the most watched game of the weekend. Sydney, obviously heavy favourites. Still a slight sniff that their season's alive. They would need a miracle, probably, in all honesty. We're not going to write them off, though, just yet. This is a team that last year played in a grand final, and they're going to be heavy favourites for this game for obvious reasons. North Melbourne's form isn't spectacular. It is in Sydney. You'd imagine they'd just win this. Their record head-to-head, Sydney have won the last 9. Before that, North won 1. So that suggests that it's a 9-1 over the last 10. Last time North Melbourne beat Sydney was round 7, 2018. So that's quite a long time ago, and I can't see that changing here. Sydney's form's been pretty good. They've won 4 of their last 5. They're playing a lot better football. I think a bit of that has to do with the fact that Errol Goulden's back. Brodie Grundy's form after about round 4 or 5 has been absolutely spectacular. And I reckon if he had have been playing like that since the start of the season, he would be my pick for the All-Australian Ruckman, in all honesty. He's not far from that conversation right now. He's actually ranked number 3 in our All Aussie Rules rating system. So if he can continue that sort of form, who knows what is possible. On the other side of the fence, North's last 3 weeks has been quite poor. They had some good mid-season form where they got draw, they got some good wins, they were competitive against quite a lot of teams. They beat Carlton 4 weeks ago, but their last 3 weeks since then have not been great. Last week, they got smacked in the end by Melbourne. I know it was only 6 goals, but they never really felt that in that game. So their form has dropped off a little bit, which makes this even harder. If they were at their best, I would say maybe they're a chance of taking this up to Sydney, but this is probably just too much, I reckon, for them. I think looking at Sydney, defensively their numbers are pretty good. Slightly down on last year, but not too bad. But it's when they have the ball that's been their biggest drop-off in comparison to last year. Their forward line hasn't been effective at all throughout most of the season. Occasionally someone pops up and kicks a few and makes it look okay, but overall not really. Their midfielders aren't kicking as many goals. which is also an issue. Outside of Brodie Grundy, I don't think there's too many players on this list that are playing better football than they were last year. If any, there might not be, and any other than Grundy. Speaking of Grundy, he's set up for a big game here. No Tristan Cherry out suspended for 3 weeks. Really good opportunity for the big Brodie Grundy to take control of this game and maybe even cement himself as an All-Australian ruckman. Who knows? He plays a good game here, gets Sydney the win. There's still that opportunity. The Roos, obviously, a very different team than Sydney. They're really good when they get the ball forward. Their pressure's good. All their players in that forward line are quite efficient. They're accurate kicks at goal. They make use of their opportunities. The problem is they don't create enough opportunities for their forward line to be successful, and also their back line really struggles to stop opposition from scoring. Once they get a run on, they really get going. North's biggest strength this year offensively all year long has been their ability to get goals from the centre bounce. It started really well early. They had probably a 6 or 7 week stretch there where they didn't have as much success, but over the last 5-6 weeks again, it's been really, really good as anyone in the AFL. So that's their biggest opportunity to score. It's at the SCG, which is also a pretty good ground for scoring from the centre. So that is the Kangaroos' big opportunity here to get scores on the board, is to win clearances and to get scores from those clearances. Because if they're unable to do that, I can't see a way that they score enough points to win this game against Sydney. Saturday night football, we have 2 games happening this weekend. The first one, well, actually, neither of them are spectacular games, in all honesty. I don't know if they'll have big crowds or too many people wanting to watch either game, but both are opportunities for lower ranked teams to get a win, I guess. Carlton, Melbourne at the MCG is the first one. Carlton 12th on the ladder, Melbourne 13th on the ladder. What to say about both of these teams, who knows? Head-to-head record is Melbourne 7 to the Blues 3 over the last 10. However, the Blues have won the last 3 of those. So they'd lost the 7 before that. Melbourne will go into this one as slight favourites, not massive favourites, but certainly favourites by the looks of things. It's going to be an interesting game. Carlton's form has completely dropped off. They came out of the bye with a really, really good win against not a really good win, but a comfortable win against West Coast. And then since then, it has all been downhill. 4 losses in a row, 2 of them against bottom 10 teams. The other 2 were against competitive teams. But 2 losses against low-ranked teams in that period is not great. One of them against the Kangaroos, who are really low on the ladder. The other one was Port Adelaide. So that one you kind of forgive. But the North Melbourne one, not so much. It's just been a really rough period. Melbourne, they snapped their losing streak last week with a win over North Melbourne. It was a good performance from them. It was at the MCG. A really needed win just for a little bit of confidence in the young team, I think. They have some good young players coming through. We'll see how that matures over the next few years and what players they can keep. But they certainly do have a few good young players on that list. Both teams have, I guess, been pretty solid in defense this year. Carlton, that's the funniest thing to me because their biggest weakness last year was their defense and their biggest attribute was their offense, whereas this year it's completely flipped. Their defense is pretty good. Their offense is absolutely putrid. Melbourne, you can kind of say the same. Offensively, not fantastic, but defensively, they get the job done pretty well for what they've got. Melbourne's issue is their lack of manpower, I guess, in that forward line. They don't have great targets. Melksham's obviously been providing them with some goals recent weeks. Bailey Fritsch has been playing probably his best form in 5 years, just about, as well. But they just don't have the stocks down there to be really competitive against decent teams. Whereas Carlton's form in their forward line has just been atrocious. Like, Charlie Curno's getting plenty of the ball, but just not finishing them. I think he's kicked 0-9 in the last 3 weeks. Their forward line's just not working. They're getting plenty of the ball and just not converting it into goals, and that is a major issue at the moment for Carlton. In all honesty, both of these teams probably compare to each other quite similarly. Both contested football teams, both love a clearance. Both forward lines not going that great. Defensively, pretty solid. So there's a lot of similarities between the two teams. Obviously, the form of the Melbourne forward line has been pretty good. Obviously, we mentioned Melksham kicking goals. I think that could be the difference in this game. I think Carlton's potential of their current team has a higher ceiling of scoring in this game, has the ability to really blow a game out of the water very quickly, and could happen any week. We haven't seen it for a while, so maybe this is the week. But I just think the form suggests that Melbourne's forward line will be better in this game. Doesn't mean they will win, doesn't mean that will happen, but their form at the moment certainly looks better than Carlton's. The other Saturday night game is the bottom two teams going at it. 18th on the ladder, West Coast, hosting 17th on the ladder, Richmond. This will be at Optus Stadium, Saturday night. Must watch telly. Richmond 7-3 head to head. Obviously, a few of those years were their dominant period. So, I mean, you expect Richmond to have a pretty good head-to-head record over the last 10 against most teams because of that, even though their last couple seasons have been quite poor. West Coast currently close favourites. They will start favourites. It won't be much in it, but they will start favourites. Eagles have just won one game this season. We're up to round 19. It's been a long season. They have excuses, there's no doubt about it, but it's been a long season, and it's going to continue that way, you'd think. I'm not saying that they won't win this one. They probably will win this one, but even if they do, there's some rough weeks coming up for them in the not too distant future. Last week, Eagles were okay. 3 weeks ago, they were pretty good against the Pies. The issue is their couple home games that they've played recently, not so good. Their away form has probably been better than their home form, so that is a slight concern here for the Eagles. Not saying that it's the end of the world, but it's just worth noting. Richmond, they're up to 4 wins, so they're 3 wins ahead of the Eagles with 6 weeks to go. So you'd think that it's pretty much written in stone that it's going to be Eagles 18th and probably Richmond 17th. I could potentially get to 16th, but I doubt it. So, pretty much locked in now that West Coast get wooden spoon. Even if they win this one, they would still need to win another 2 to get out of bottom spot. So I can't see that happening. Obviously, Richmond won last weekend. It wasn't a pretty game, but they got the job done. So their form, their confidence, maybe will be as high as it has been for this season, maybe for a long time. And maybe that will boast well for them here for another away win. Who knows? From memory, these two teams met last year at Optus Stadium, and West Coast knocked them over quite comfortably. So there's that as well, although Jake Waterman was playing his best football back then, and he's obviously out injured at the moment. Tigers' defense is better than their offense. The young team defends pretty well, in all honesty. I've been quite impressed with quite a few of their players. They get the job done quite well for the inexperience. I mean, they do have quite a bit of experience back there. Obviously, Floston, probably the leader back there. They have some other experience around him, but I still think defensively they're pretty good. It's with the ball that they struggle. Their efficiency, their ball use, their decision-making leaves a little bit to be desired at times, but overall, defense is pretty solid. Eagles, they're just as bad at both ends as each other. Their midfield's not great either. Their midfield's probably their weakest part, in all honesty. It's just a team that's really struggling to put things together. Yes, they have a lot of injuries, a lot of retirements as well this year, things not going great for them, but it's just it's just the story of the Eagles, I guess. At home, the Eagles should probably be too strong, but I don't have any faith in either of these two teams, so it's a flip of the coin, really. We'll jump into Sunday football, and we got Geelong hosting St Kilda down at GMHBA Stadium. This one will lead off with Geelong being solid favourites. They're fourth on the ladder, St Kilda 15th on the ladder. Right now, Geelong have to start favourites, and quite massive favourites, you'd imagine. Not a massively advantage in the head-to-head over the last 10 years to either team. It's 6 for Geelong, 4 for St Kilda. They have met already this year. That was at Marvel Stadium in round 2 when St Kilda beat Geelong with a really good first half to 3 quarters, and then Geelong came back a little bit and only lost by about a kick, but that was at Marvel. St Kilda are a lot better team at Marvel. These two teams did meet last year at GMHBA in round 1, I think it was, from memory. And St Kilda were pretty competitive. I think they only lost by about a kick that day as well. So they don't play terribly against Geelong. So there's just a slight sniff, even if it's only slight. Recent form, Cats have won 3 out of their last 5, so 3 and 2. The 2 losses were against the Giants and the Lions, so teams that are around them on the ladder. 3 wins, though, really solid. They stay 4th on the ladder. They just can't drop this sort of game. If they want to finish top 4, which they probably should finish top 4, they just can't lose this game. It's been well publicised that they don't play that many competitive teams in the remainder of this season. They have played, I think, 10 games against teams in the top 8 so far this year, so they have had a reasonably tough run, and they've been pretty good throughout most of it, but you'd imagine that they're going to have a pretty easy run home, and they should probably just about win them all. It's been a bad run of form for St Kilda. They haven't won since June 1st, so they've lost their last 5, and if you go back until 13th of April, they had 2 wins, 11 losses. That's not a great stretch. For a team that has quite a lot of talent on it, it's not a great stretch. They went 3 losses, 1 win, 3 losses, 1 win, 5 losses is how their last 13 games have gone. It's not great form. They played pretty well against Sydney last week. They had every opportunity to win that one, but just couldn't get over the line in the end and lost it by about a kick. And that basically just sums up where St Kilda are this year. They're there, but they're not there, and they're going to end up with one of the worst records in the AFL. And when you only win 2 games from 2 out of 13 games, it just suggests that you're a fair way off being competitive in a season, let's be honest. Having said all that, you'd have to put Geelong winning this. I don't know if they'll win by as much as they probably could or should, or people think they will. But they should be too strong, you would have to think, in this one. We've got Collingwood Fremantle up next. This will be MCG. Sunday afternoon game. Top of the ladder, Collingwood. 8th on the ladder, Fremantle. This is a huge game for especially Fremantle, but also Collingwood. If Collingwood were to drop this one, coming off their loss last week, all of a sudden, top 2, not certain. Certainly top 1, not certain. Because they don't have an easy run home. I think they have a stretch where they play Brisbane, Hawthorn, and someone else. I can't remember. Adelaide in Adelaide. Across a 3-week stretch. So they do have some tough games coming up. So they probably want this sort of game to go their way. They will start strong favourites. It's obviously in Melbourne. They have a pretty solid record against Fremantle. 6 wins, 3 losses, and a draw over the last 10. Last time Fremantle beat Collingwood was way back in 2021, round 15. Since then, it's been Collingwood 4 wins, and last year's draw as well, which was over in the West. Yeah, big time for Freo though. Obviously, with Western Bulldogs already having played this weekend by this point, we'll know where that sits. But if the Bulldogs were to lose, Fremantle win, that would be a huge turnaround for them and just put a gap between them and ninth spot. Whereas if it goes the other way and Bulldogs manage to knock off Brisbane and Fremantle can't beat Collingwood, all of a sudden that makes Fremantle's season really difficult. They've got a pretty tough run home. They need to try and steal a game, I think, if they want to play finals. They have to win a game that they're not favourite to win. And this won't be the easiest one to do, but it would be huge for the context of their season if they managed to do it. Last week, obviously, Collingwood did lose to Gold Coast. Didn't kick a goal in the first half. Came back really well in that last quarter and a bit, but they've just, maybe the loss they needed, who knows. They've still won 14 of their last 16 matches. They're copping a few injuries at the moment, so maybe they're a little bit vulnerable. Their backline's dropping like flies. Houston out, Jeremy Howe out. So there are some issues with the Collingwood lineup at the moment, but being at the MCG, you'd have to think they'll be too good. Fremantle, they've won 7 of their last 8 games. Their only loss to Sydney at the SCG. So they haven't had the toughest run. I know they beat Hawthorn, last week, which was a really good win. This is the period of time, though, that they need to capitalise. Over the next 4 or 5 weeks, they need to keep winning. They can probably not afford to lose too many more games this year. And this is probably one that they would accept a loss. They won't want to lose, but they certainly need to keep winning. Last time these two teams met was over at Optus Stadium earlier this year. It was a weird old game. Fremantle had so many inside 50s. They controlled the territory really well. They controlled many areas of the game, but Collingwood just were too strong at converting, at making opportunities, and beating them on the rebound, I guess, which led to, I think, Jamie Elliott kicked 5 and Collingwood were just way too strong that day. I think this game, everyone's looking at the current form of Sarong. You stop Sarong, you stop the Dockers sort of thing. And in all honesty, it's probably true, but is that the only focus for Collingwood here, to stop Sarong? I don't know. I think they'll probably look at their game more than they will at the Dockers. They'll want to get back on the winners list. And, I think that's where we'll see this game. The biggest weakness at the moment for Fremantle is their offense. They've got some good players down there. Obviously, Tracy's playing really well all season long. Swiatkowski played well last week in his first game for a month or so. He was good. Murphy Reed's been good. But players like Jaya Miss, just not playing anywhere near his best. He hasn't this season, and he probably didn't last season either. Go back 2 years ago, he was their best forward. As a real young key forward, he showed a lot of potential, but he's really struggled over the last year and a half. If they get him up and going, this Fremantle team will be almost impossible to stop in that forward line, in my opinion. But that's just been their biggest weakness up forward at the moment, is their ability to convert their opportunities into goals. They get the ball forward plenty of times. They just don't always do a great job at getting the goals from it. But with the Pies injuries down back, maybe this is an opportunity for them on the weekend. I guess we'll see and find out about that one. There's only one game left to go. We've flown through the games this weekend. Sunday evening, Adelaide Oval. Same time slot that the game in Adelaide was last week, but that was Port Adelaide West Coast. This one is Adelaide v the Gold Coast. Another battle of the heavyweights. Two teams fighting for top 4. The winner of this really sets themselves up for a top 4 spot. The loser is right back in the rubble. Adelaide going to be heavy favourites, no doubt about it. It's at Adelaide Oval. They're third on the ladder, Gold Coast 5th, having played one less game, granted. The last 10, it's 5 apiece for both teams, interestingly enough. They met earlier this year, which was up on the Gold Coast. It was an absolute nail-biter. maybe Adelaide were ripped off with an umpiring decision, maybe. But it was a cracking game. Hopefully, we get another one like that here. Adelaide in great form. There's no doubt about it. A win here really sets up their top 4 opportunity and maybe even top 2 opportunity because they have plenty of winnable games in the run home, and this would be massive for them. Gold Coast, they've won their last 3 to get their season back on track. Obviously, around that bye period, I think they dropped 3 in a row. Their season was just starting to fall quickly. Well, not quickly, but just had that little speed bump. They've rectified it completely. They've won their last 3, including last week against Collingwood. Every win is important for them right now. They're probably at the point where they can still miss finals if they completely fall over. But as long as they keep banking the wins that they should be getting, they'll be fine to play finals. It's a matter of whether they can win enough to finish either 5th or 6th and get the home final, or sneak into that top 4, because they do have that extra game, obviously in hand than pretty much every other competitor because of that game that was abandoned early season. So you've got to think that they are still a chance for top 4. If they go down to Adelaide this week and beat Adelaide, you've got to put them in your top 4, I think. Whereas if Adelaide win this like they should, you've got to say Adelaide are probably top 4 and maybe even a top 2 team this year. With the run home that they have. The numbers on most things suggest Adelaide should be too good. At Adelaide Oval, if this was on the Gold Coast, I'd be saying it's an absolute flip of the coin. In Adelaide, I'm saying Adelaide should be too strong. The best opportunity, I think, for the Suns here is out of the stoppage and creating clearances and getting the ball forward to their really quite solid forward line. Chaos ball going forward, get it done. That's pretty much what they're going to be doing, I think. If they can do that and create the opportunities and their forwards can take the marks or spill it to other teammates, that's Gold Coast's big opportunity in this game. Whereas if Adelaide can control the intercept game and pressure game, because they're not great out of clearances, it's all over. Because if they can control intercepts and then find targets throughout the field, don't turn it over, it's game over. Because those Adelaide forwards will go to absolute town. I know Gold Coast's backline is pretty solid. They did pretty well last week against Collingwood, but this Adelaide forward line is as dangerous as it gets in the competition. So that's how I see this one going. Yeah, pretty much sums it up. Before we jump into my tips for this weekend, don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you're on YouTube, or the follow button if you are on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Don't forget to hit the noti bell. Don't forget to leave a comment, hit the like button, give the podcast a rating. All of those things, every interaction helps, and it's all very important. So please go do that. Don't forget to hit up all the socials. We post game reviews on Instagram, like photos of game reviews. We also do game reviews on TikTok, 60-second video after every single match. So go check them out. All Aussie Rules everywhere. We live tweet during games as well on Twitter. So go check all that out. Blue Sky as well. Didn't mention that one. All Aussie Rules everywhere. Go find me and give me a follow. And tweet at me whenever you want. I will try and reply. Moving on to our tips for the weekend. And here they are. We lead off on Thursday night. GWS will be way too strong for the Bombers. It's almost impossible to see the Bombers winning this one. Strange things sometimes happen in football, but I don't think this is one of them. I've got the Giants by 73. Next up, we got Brisbane over the Bulldogs by 13 points. I think it will be a really good game. Multiple teams have beat the Lions at the Gabba, so I think maybe there's just a little bit of vulnerability about the Lions here, but I think they should be too good in this one. Next up, Hawthorn should be way too strong for Port Adelaide. I've only got them by 25 just because of the Ken curse. It's not actually a curse, but maybe it is. But I still can't see Hawthorn losing at Utah Stadium against Port Adelaide. Sydney should be way too strong for North Melbourne based on what we've seen over the last 4 or so weeks. 28-point winners, I've got them by Carlton over Melbourne. I've gone for the slight upset here. 2-point win. Not confident with either team. We're going with Carlton just because I just feel like one of these days, Charlie Curnow is going to kick 5, 6, 7 goals. He's getting enough of the football. He's just not kicking goals. And I think one of these days he will. So that's my thoughts there. The other Saturday night game, we're going West Coast by 9 points over Richmond. I think it'll be close either way, but West Coast just have to win this, you'd think. I know Richmond coming off the win against the Bombers. I know they've won a lot more games of football this year, but at home, West Coast just have to get the job done. Especially now that like draft picks don't matter in terms of they're not going to finish above Richmond no matter what happens throughout the rest of the season pretty much. So they have free reign to go and win this game. They've got to give a little bit of ticker and win this one, I think. Moving to Sunday, Geelong will be too strong for St Kilda, you'd think, based on what we've seen this year, 21 points. Collingwood to beat Freo at the MCG by 17 points. Once again, just too strong at home, I think. And then to wrap up the weekend, Adelaide by 12 over Gold Coast. I think Gold Coast will put up a really good fight in this game, but I think the class and the strength of that Adelaide forward line will just be too strong in the end and get them over the line. We're 105 out of 152 this season, so not spectacular, but I mean, it's not terrible. We had an okay week last week. Hopefully we can get 9 out of 9 this week. We'll see how we go. Don't forget to return on Monday where the review episode will go live on all your favourite platforms, podcasting platforms. If you haven't already, go check out the YouTube channel. We post videos there regularly as well. Just yesterday or the day before, sometime this week, we posted a little ladder predictor for the rest of the season. So go check that out. Find out who came out on top and who wins the premiership according to us here at All Aussie Rules. Other than that, I thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to share this with all your friends and family. We'll be back Monday with the wrap-up of all the Round 19 action. I'm Jay. This is the All Aussie Rules Football Podcast, and I'll see you on the next one.